Global icon, superstar, living legend. For over 2 decades now, Beyonce has dominated popular culture, sold millions of records, and is often cited as the biggest star on the planet. And Crazy in Love, the song which laid the foundations for this extraordinary success, is regarded by fans and critics alike as an undisputed classic. But whilst it may seem that Beyonce's unstoppable ascent was always assured, there were actually some hiccups as she transitioned from Destiny's Child to solo stardom. And in this video we are going to look at why Beyonce's solo career got off to a rocky start, why Bey didn't originally like the track Crazy in Love is based upon, why Bey's record label had serious doubts about the song and her debut album, and why she took such a huge risk on an up-and-coming British director for the video. So many questions, let's find out. Although Crazy in Love is widely considered to be Beyonce's first solo single, her debut release was in actual fact Work It Out, a track which was the theme song from 2002's Austin Powers In Go Member, in which Beyonce played the role of Foxy Cleopatra. The song, which was written by Beyonce and the Neptunes, was well received by critics, but despite these auspicious factors, it did not do very well. In fact, when it was released in June 2002, it failed to crack even the Billboard Hot 100. Some attributed the song's failure to its 1960s funk sound and its lack of contemporary feel. Since Beyonce had arrived on the scene in '98 with Destiny's Child, she had been singled out for solo superstardom by critics and fans alike. Beyonce's vocals and stage presence were simply undeniable. And with the group's third album, the 10 million selling Survivor, Destiny's Child became one of the biggest selling bands in the world, and expectations for Beyonce to deliver as a solo star were high. At the end of 2001, the 3 girls of Destiny's Child began work on their solo projects. Beyonce had previously almost gone solo when LaToya and Latavia tried to dissolve their management contract with the group's manager Matthew Knowles, who was also Beyonce's father, and carrying on as a group no longer seemed like a possibility. Michelle was first out the gate in April 2002 with her gospel album Heart to Yours. Kelly scored a huge hit, Dilemma, in summer 2002, which was a duet with the rapper Nelly, and it went to #1 in the UK and US, where it hogged the top spot for 10 whole weeks. Beyonce's solo album had originally been penciled in for the 4th quarter of 2002, but because of Kelly's huge success with Nelly, it was decided that Beyonce's album should be delayed. I'm sure Kelly's huge success at the time spurred Beyonce on to deliver the goods with her own solo material. Instead of releasing her solo album at the end of 2002, Beyonce teamed up with her then rumoured boyfriend Jay-Z to record the duet 03 Bonnie and Clyde. It sampled the late Tupac Shakur's song Me and My Girlfriend and was produced by a then unknown Kanye West and became a top 5 hit in the States. For those of you who don't already know, Crazy in Love was produced by R&B supremo Rich Harrison. Harrison had first broken into the music industry working on songs for Mary J. Blige on her Mary album in '99 and No More Drama in 2001. Harrison had already worked with Kelly Rowland on Can't Nobody for her debut solo album, so he may have come to Bey's attention in this way. He also wrote and produced all of A-Marie's debut album All I Have, which was released in summer 2002, and this could also have caught Bey's attention. When Beyonce's team reached out to Harrison about the possibility of the two working together, Rich was so excited and so confident that the partnership would be a success that he went out and got drunk the night before. And when the two met in December 2002, Bey was working on her album at the Sony Music Studios in Manhattan. According to The Guardian, their first meeting the next day didn't get off to a promising start, with Rich turning up late and hungover. He began by playing Beyonce some music, including a Shy Lights track from 1970, Are You My Woman? Tell Me So. The song, which reached number 72 originally, had been a very minor hit. Those distinctive horns which Harrison chose to sample would become the song's biggest hook. Harrison explained to MTV at the time, I hadn't really shopped it much because sometimes you don't want to come out of the bag before it's right. People don't really get it and you leave them with a foul taste in their mouth. So it was just something that I held on to until I got a call from Bey. But upon hearing the track for the first time, Beyonce had misgivings. She thought it sounded dated and that big horns just weren't current. But after hearing the track for a few times, but after a few more listens, Beyonce started to come around to the idea of working on it. She decided to give Harrison 2 hours to write a song around the sample while she went off someplace else. So feeling hungover and now under a lot of pressure, Harrison wrote the verses and the chorus, and when Beyonce returned, she wrote the middle 8 or the bridge, as they say stateside. In an interview at the time, Beyonce said, "Don't worry, I'm not going to attempt a Texan accent. The song came from me actually looking crazy one day in the studio. I said, I'm looking crazy right now, and Rich Harrison, the producer, said, that's the hook." According to J. Randy Taraborelli's biography of the star, Jay-Z recorded his rap at 3 in the morning and mostly improvised it on the spot. Eugene Record from the Shy Lights also got a songwriting credit on the track, but he passed away in 2005. When Beyonce handed in the finished album with Crazy in Love to Columbia, the powers that be were not impressed with the final result, which is especially surprising considering what we now know. There was even talk of not releasing the album as Columbia didn't think there were enough hits on it. In an interview years later, Beyonce would say, "They told me I didn't have one hit on the album. I guess they were kinda right. I had 5. You tell 'em, B." Kwan Prather, who worked at Columbia at the time, revealed on the Frequently Asked Questions podcast that many Columbia execs surprisingly favoured Baby Boy over Crazy in Love as the lead single, mostly because of Sean Paul being featured on it, who was really quote-unquote hot at the time. With the lead single chosen, it was then time to sort out a video, and instead of going with the usual suspects at the time, such as Francis Lawrence or David Myers or Paul Hunter, Beyonce chose British director Jake Nava. Nava was born and raised in London and studied film at the University of Westminster. He cut his teeth directing videos for Mark Morrison, Miss Dynamite and the Spice Girls. It was a daring choice for B to make as Jake had not yet broken into the American market. Years later, in an interview with Complex.com, Jake Nava spoke about the Crazy in Love video. "I thought I was bringing to Crazy in Love a fusion of everything I loved about American R&B, but with a more chic, European fashion sensibility." He also said in the interview he thinks it was his scandalous video for Mystique which helped him to get noticed by Beyonce. The video was shot in downtown Los Angeles in May 2003 and was based on fashion shoots of 90 supermodels. The rugged backdrop helped to accentuate the feminine glamorous clothes, and if you haven't spotted her already, Carmit Bakar from the Pussycat Dolls dances in the video. After the success of the Crazy in Love video, Jake and B would go on to become long-term collaborators. He worked with B on the follow-up single to Crazy in Love, Baby Boy, and on the final single from Dangerously in Love, Naughty Girl. He also worked with a reunited Destiny's Child on Cater to You. And for the Sasha Fierce album, he directed the If I Were a Boy video and what must surely be one of the most iconic videos ever, Single Ladies. He also directed Partition, Grown Woman and Flawless for Beyonce. Upon release in May 2003, Crazy in Love was met with widespread acclaim and it became an instant #1 in the UK and US, where it spent 8 weeks at the top. It even reached #1 in America on airplay alone. The song helped its parent album, Dangerously in Love, debut at #1 in the UK and US. And in June 2003, Beyonce became the first female artist and the 5th artist ever to top the singles and album charts simultaneously on both sides of the Atlantic. B performed the track with Jay-Z at the 2004 Brit Awards. She also performed it as part of a medley with Prince at the Grammys the same year. That night, the song won a Grammy for Best R&B Song and Best Rap Song Collaboration. B took home 5 Grammys that night, which at the time was the most amount of Grammys won by a woman in a single year. In 2021, Rolling Stone placed Crazy in Love at number 16 on their list of the 500 greatest songs of all time. And in 2018, they awarded it the title of the greatest song of the century so far. VH1 declared it as the greatest song of the 2000s. UK's NME magazine also voted it as the best single of that decade. According to Billboard, the song has sold 1.2 million units in the UK alone. Rich Harrison and Beyonce would go on to work together a few more times afterwards on Soldier with Destiny's Child and Sugar Mama and Freakum Dress from the B-Day album. He also scored a huge hit in '04 with One Thing for A. Marie and the following year with Get Right for J-Lo. I can't find much information on what he's up to these days, but he's probably so minted now he can afford to take it easy. It's well for some, isn't it? Whilst we might not be sure what Mr. Harrison's up to these days, we all know exactly what Queen Beyonce's been up to. Conquering the world, shattering records, and living up to her already dizzying levels of greatness. Beyonce continues to be the very definition of what it means to be a star, and Crazy in Love helped lay the path for her stratospheric success. It was also a masterclass example of how to use a sample effectively. Crazy in Love was a career record and it helped to define Beyonce as a music artist. It's the kind of song that music artists long for and that singers of lesser talent and drive could live off for the rest of their days. Crazy in Love provided people with confirmation of what they had long suspected. Miss Beyonce Knowles was a bona fide superstar. Thanks for watching. If you have any thoughts on anything in this video, please leave them in the comments below. Don't forget to like and subscribe and check out my other videos.